Buyers are willing to risk their safety to find an affordable home now. Not so sure that's a good idea. I always love downtown on a weekday because it's quiet and there are no kids running around. Thought I'd do a little walk and talk today.
So, per this latest news, buyers are willing to sacrifice their safety for an affordable home.
Nearly 1 in every 5 house hunters are willing to sacrifice physical safety to find a home they can afford within the next year, according to a new report from the real estate brokerage Redfin. Isn't that something?
And it's not just safety these Gen Zers are willing to give up.
Access to health care, restaurants, bars, coffee shops. These are all things that the Gen Zers are willing to give up in order to find an affordable home. Me personally, I have no problem giving up the bars, probably the restaurants. Coffee shop's a tough one, but the healthcare, that's a tough pill to swallow. No pun intended. You know, everybody deserves to own their own home. That is, if you can pay for it. But risking your own personal safety in order to afford that home, well, that's a whole different subject altogether.
And crime is rising tremendously here in the United States. I recently saw this article right here. The sanctuary cities are starting to fall apart now.
I mean, what I'm seeing happening in the United States today isn't good for anybody, let alone Gen Zers.
Yes, the landscape of America is changing, and not in a good way. My daily inbox is littered with examples of accelerating crime, and much of it to do with illegal immigration.
I mean, have you seen what's happening in England? They've had enough. They've been allowing illegal immigration there for a long time, and it has now blown up in their face. People don't feel safe walking the streets, particularly women. And I can only see that becoming America. Yeah, I noticed even in Chicago, they've kind of had enough of it. Apparently they were protesting at the DNC because the residents of Chicago are tired of their resources being exploited for non-Americans. And it's just not Chicago. The people in New York are PO'd as well. But back to the housing thing. I digress. You know, safety is one of the number one things people usually look for when buying a home. They look at the safety of the neighborhood. They look at the safety of the town. So, to all of a sudden toss that concept because you can't afford anything in a safe neighborhood, buyer beware. One, if you decide later that you made a mistake, it's much harder to sell a home in a high crime area. It's much harder to sell a home with poor school systems. It's much harder to sell a home that doesn't have a strong, support system. The municipalities within an area have good health care and access to shopping and dining. If you're willing to give all that up, what are you gonna do? Lock yourself in your house and never come out? And now think about your kids. I would never in a million years, I don't care how nice the house was or how cheap it was, put my child or my family at risk because I wanted to buy a home. But, this is where we are. Yeah, this article right here said 1 in 4 people were willing to trade off access to a quality school for their kids. I know, you got to have a place to live. We've got to rein in these housing prices because this is just ridiculous. So they had some people that were surveyed, and they said house hunters were most willing to trade off access to doctor, healthcare amenities. 41% of people were willing to trade that off. Restaurants, bars, coffee shops, 30% were willing to, give that up for an affordable house. I am extremely thankful that I live in a safe area. Every night when I lay my head down, I give thanks for that because I see what's going on in this country. And as an older American, I turned 60 this year, I worry that this will slip away. I can already see development where I live that's deteriorating my environment. My town is no longer small, traffic's ridiculous, and there is rising crime. Now, is it ridiculous? No. But what's to stop it from getting ridiculous when we have wide open borders? So these are all things that concern me as an older person, and I'm only going to get older because I haven't figured out how to stop that. So I've got to take all of this into consideration, and I would move if I felt unsafe where I lived. I would absolutely move if I were no longer comfortable where I lived due to my personal security. I'm a firm believer in the original Homeland Security. Take that very seriously. I certainly wouldn't live in an area where I was not able to protect myself. And that's something we should all be thinking about in the future. Whether you live in a high crime area or not, what are you gonna do when that Venezuelan gang knocks on your door, does a home invasion, and you have no way of protecting yourself? Because, Kamala wants to do a gun buyback, a mandatory gun buyback, just like they did in Australia. Now, the media's trying to hide that footage. Google's suppressing it, but you can find it. She did say it. And it wasn't an interview. It wasn't like a one-off, little comment. She went all in on it. And if you think for a moment she wasn't serious, you're out of your mind. How about you? If the only way you could buy a home with your specific budget was to risk your personal safety, would you do it? I mean, I guess maybe if you're law enforcement, I don't know. Maybe you feel a little more confident that you can take care of yourself and your family, but when you go to work, is your house gonna get broken into? I just don't know. They say your home is your castle. I'm a firm believer in that. Even when I go on a nice vacation, when you come home, you feel like, I'm at home, I can relax, just vegetate, no schedule to keep up with. Somehow, every vacation I go on, I always have a list of stuff I want to do. Sometimes I think I'm even more busy on my vacation than I am when I'm not. Buying a home is a personal decision. And, everybody has the right to make the decision to live where they want. I mean, I guess you could build a really big wall around your house. That didn't work out for our border, but might work at your house. Things to consider seriously. We have open borders. the defund the police movement. No cash bail. In sanctuary cities, hotels are being converted into public housing for illegal immigrants on our dime. It will eventually erode every state, every city, and probably every neighborhood. Eventually. I mean, it's apparent that things aren't going well in these sanctuary cities. You know, things are changing rapidly here in the United States. From a volatile stock market, teetering housing market, open borders, rising crime. I do fear that we'll never return to what we once were. Think about this a lot as someone heading into retirement, what I'm going to have to deal with. What about you? If you're retired or heading into retirement, are these concerns that you have? Is this our new normal? If so, sucks. I'd love to know what you're doing during these changing times. Have you seen anything change where you live? And if so, have you considered relocating? Apparently, the Gen Zer population is willing to take the risk of a higher crime area in order to find a house these days. That's how bad things have gotten. Inquiring minds want to know. Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments section, because all I do is read economic news, real estate news, and your comments are far more interesting, believe me. Make sure you stay informed, you stay safe, and you stay free, because freedom is all we have. And hit the like button and the subscribe button. And do the hokey pokey. Turn yourself around. Until next time, take care. I'm being stalked by a squirrel.